Yeah, end of a long week, a long campaign, and what better way to celebrate than with that music and with Geraldo, too.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It was such an honor to be out there with those guys. So nice to see them. You know, I've been with practically every fighting unit in the U.S. military, just thinking about it.
And several are still speaking to you.
Sending out prayers and our thanks for their service.
That's right. It's been a very patriotic week. Millions of Americans went out and they voted, early voting, and then the voting on Tuesday as well. And yesterday we saw what it came to fruition when Donald Trump, so many people said extraordinarily, that guy could never be president of the United States. He is the president-elect. He went down to Washington. He sat with the president of the United States, Geraldo, in the Oval Room for 90 minutes. It was supposed to be a 15-minute grip and grin, but as it turns out, they had lots to talk about.
I was delighted by the symbolism of this meeting. I was delighted by how gracious the tone was and how, you know, responsible they both seemed and mutually respectful of the fact that one is the president, one is the president-elect today. Yeah. But, you know, let me just flash back to Wednesday night. Eric and I went to see Oh Hello, the hilarious Nick Kroll comedy on 45th Street. We couldn't cross 6th Avenue. Why? Because there were hundreds and hundreds of protesters coming up 6th Avenue to protest in front of the various Trump properties, the Trump Tower on 56th and 5th, the Trump Hotel, which was the base of Celebrity Apprentice. Anything that says Trump. But what occurred to Eric and I is that the protesters are disrupting the lives of people who voted for Hillary Clinton. Manhattan went 87% for Hillary, Portland, Oregon, for goodness sake, Los Angeles. So the people whose lives are being unsettled and disrupted by the protests are the people who should be the allies of the protesters. That's how nonsensical it is. I understand that people are stunned. I understand that people are shocked. What I preached the night of the election was that we have to just calm down and let the process take its course and give Donald Trump a chance. We know him well enough to know that he's not going to go off on Twitter rants with the nuclear codes. That's not going to happen. The office is humbling. The office forces a kind of modesty on people, a responsibility that is so awesome that it calms everything and evens out a lot of the bumps. How good a president will he be? We'll see. But you know, to see him seated side by side with Barack Obama, I thought was very reassuring. And as a
good first step.
As an equity investor, I was delighted with what the stock market has done in the last several days. Yeah. I hope the streak continues. We will get through this. I mean, but we have to also understand, and we can't be patronizing about it, that there were 59 million on one side and 59 million on the other side, and there's a big geographic divide in the nation, and we just have to understand and give people time.
Elections have consequences.
Of course, and I'm not suggesting that they don't. And I say to Donald Trump, you are all our president right now, and we're giving you the shot to do.
Do you think he really gets that fresh start with the left, or is this just going to be bitter war from day one?
You know, Ed, that's an excellent question, and I don't know what I didn't like about yesterday, and I have to be frank with everybody about this. You know how I feel about immigration reform and the plight of the undocumented immigrants. There is one subset of that group that really, I think, we have to understand feels a sense of panic right now. Remember the 700,000 dreamers. Those are the youngsters brought to this country at a very young age who were given a free pass by President Obama several years ago. An executive order.
Was not passed by Congress.
Was not passed by Congress. But those people now face the revocation of that temporary green card, or at least yellow card, that they got to live here and to work here.
He walked it back and he said, these are just people who are here, not just, he said, these are people who are criminals who are here illegally. And are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're the ones that are going to be sent back. I don't think he's going to...
From your lips to God's ears.
You really think he's going to separate families? His own wife is an immigrant.
But here's what I want him to say now. We have Brentwood, Long Island. It's a town, a heavily Latino town, not 35 miles from here, that has been plagued by Latino gangbangers from MS-13, mostly from El Salvador. 5 have been murdered there in the last several months. 5 bodies have been found. I want Donald Trump to say, I'm going after MS-13. Juan and Maria, the student at the university here and there. I want him to say it right now, because when you say, just put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in the shoes of the kids who are here. Some of their younger siblings probably born in the United States.
Absolutely.
But the older kids, the dreamers, and their parents subject to deportation. Will there be a deportation force? You know, we want to know that, and I think he should say that.
Don't you think, though, Donald Trump is a realist, and he's a negotiator, and he's going to try to, ultimately what he's trying to do is enforce the border, which we're all for. Well, most people are for.
No, everyone's in favor of it.
But fix the immigration system, because right now it's all screwed up.
Right, and you have to recognize the
Let's see what his plan is.
Right. But let's take NAFTA. Here you have NAFTA. We want to renegotiate NAFTA. There are all those car plants along the Mexican border on the Mexican side. Why? Because on one side of the border you get paid $5 an hour. The other side of the border you get paid $45 an hour. Will NAFTA close those Mexican car factories? And if it does, what happens to the Mexicans who work in those car factories? What are they going to do?
You know what?
They're going to hop the wall and come to here.
Mexico said about NAFTA yesterday, we want to modernize it. We want to modernize
and I heard
NAFTA.
Justin Trudeau, our neighbor to the north, said the same thing. That's great, but I think that I saw that Donald Trump started tweeting again, talking about the protesters. At first he was rueful, and then he was understanding and saying they're expressing their as long as they obey the law and don't break stuff, they're doing their constitutional
passion.
That was good. So I see, even though he gets in trouble with tweeting, that may be a way that he can reassure people. Just say, listen, I'm not coming after Jose Jr. at Berkeley. I'm going after the gangbanger I want him to say stuff like that.
Like Steve said, elections have consequences. So do your words when you're commander-in-chief now. It's different than being a nominee. And if he says some of those things, you're right, it will have real power.
Power, but I know the guy. I've known forever. I know what's in his heart. I can't say I know what's in his heart. I can tell you what I think of him. I think of him, and when you asked me over time, first of all, I'm stunned and shocked that he was elected. And when you asked me, as you did several times over the course of this long campaign, but can he still win? Can he still win? And I said yes. And I wasn't exactly humoring or patronizing you, but I didn't think it was really possible for most of the time.
I did, because I go out there and I hear people, and I've heard the frustration over the last number of years, and you just figured there's got to be a silent majority or minority, and they rose up and they voted on Tuesday.
And the number of people that go to the rallies.
True, but we also have to appreciate that this is a profoundly divided nation, and it is divided along race, ethnic, economic lines.
It's never been worse.
It's never been worse.
How do we get here?
85% of white evangelicals voting for Trump. 88% of African Americans, 65% of Latinos, and the Latinos. Everyone thought that Latinos would make the difference, that they would put Clinton over the top. As it happens, Latinos did perform slightly better. We had 11% of the total electorate, up from 10 the last time and 8 the time before that. But the upsurge of white working-class people who turned out, that was the story of the surge of this election.
Thanks for joining us.
Well, we all have to give him a chance, because
give him a chance, and he's all our president, and let's show love now, understanding, compassion, and inclusive-ness.
Right, and who knew that Geraldo was just telling us a lie?
I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Well, turns out it happened.
And it happened. What?
All right.
Tell me you weren't surprised. Yeah. Oh, sure. You know the whole time.
No. I saw the polls, and I knew, so it was surprising.
Oh, yeah.
All right.